The Street remains jittery amid the geopolitical tensions, with the Nifty holding above the 24,600 mark and broader indices outperforming. It's a mixed trend across sectors, with IT and metals in the green and both private and PSU banks under pressure. The VIX remains elevated.
The US granted a 30-day waiver allowing India to buy certain Russian oil cargoes already stranded at sea. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the move aims to stabilize global energy markets amid West Asia tensions, while adding that Washington expects India to increase purchases of US crude.
Donald Trump says US and Israeli forces are rapidly degrading Iran's military, claiming more than 24 Iranian ships. Meanwhile, Abbas Araghchi warned that Iran is prepared for a prolonged war, accusing Washington of sabotaging the diplomatic talks.
Shares of Okla India are upbeat after Citigroup initiated coverage with a buy rating and 750 rupee target, implying 35% upside. The brokerages cites Okla leadership in South India, spices market strong, category tailwinds and growth from convenience foods and international markets.
And defense stocks are buzzing. Moscow said negotiations for the 99,000 crore submarine project are complete, while JRSC signed an understanding with Kalyani Strategic Systems. Moreover, DCX Systems secured a 68 crore order from HAL.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now. I'm Kavita Thapriya. With me is my colleague Ankita Saxena. And Ankita, a very happy International Women's Day.
Same to you, Kavita. Wishing you the same.
All right, for the viewers out there, this is going to be our International Women's Day special. And yes, on Buy Now, Sell Now, if you are a women viewer, women investor, you can send across your question on the number that's flashing on the screen. Let's just quickly flash our WhatsApp number. Send across your name of the stock, the price at which you've bought it, and the timeline till which you want to hold it. We'll give you a technical as well as fundamental view. And this is the show where we answer all your stock-specific queries. But moving on, let's just do a quick market check, and post that, let's get connected with our experts on the show as well. So the markets are on the declining phase right now, as we can see. Sensex almost hovering around 24,600, and similarly, if we look at Bank Nifty, that is also down more than 600 points, almost 643 points, 1% down. 58,412 is the level on Bank Nifty as well. Sensex 466 point down. The market breadth looks pretty weak with 1470 declines, but look at the losers. Interglobe Aviation down almost more than 2%. ICICI Bank 2.5%, Max Health, Axis Bank, L&T, Bajaj Finserv. We can look at all of these counters down almost 1.5%. Defense pack is really doing good in today's trade. Even the index is up more than 2%, you know. On the gainer side on Nifty, we can see BEL almost 2.5% up. Look at NTPC 1.5%, RIL, HCL Tech, Infosys, Wipro. IT counters also doing well, especially the frontline IT or the large cap IT. But then Hindalco is doing good, almost more than 0.5% up. Market so far is trying to maintain or hold that important support level and hovering around 24,600. But also look at some stock specific action. NMDC almost 4% up. Prices of iron ore with effect 6th March has been fixed. So that detailing is out, and we can look at the counter so far. It's almost 2.5% up, but earlier in the trade it went more than 4%. Similarly, railway ancillaries are also buzzing in today's action. Look at Jupiter Wagons, Titagarh and Texmaco. We can look at all of the counters doing good, more than 2% or 4% up. Also few MRPL, again a stock in focus, 2.8% is up. Officially, a company has denied the claims that it halted fuel exports due to Iran conflict. That's a clarification that has come up from the company as well. 3.5% that's up. So a mixed day in terms of stock specific action, Ankita. But being our International Women's Day special, we have a very special programming coming up, including our guest on the show.
Absolutely. So without further ado, Kavita, let's get on board. Our guest Sharmila Joshi is now joining us, and Forum Cheda, who's the founder Chart Analytics, who are joining us. Good morning, and wishing you both a very happy Women's Day, both Sharmila and Forum. Let's get going with the show then and get our first viewer who's writing to us. This is Rohit, who's writing us he says he's a long-term investor. He says he has 600 shares of Som Distilleries that he has, and he wants to buy more. And he also has Indian hotels that he has at a buying price of 678. So he wants to add more to both these counters. Forum, let me come to you. Is it a good entry level for Som and Indian hotels? Can he buy more at these levels or wait for more correction?
Well, firstly, good morning to everybody, and thank you for having me on the show and wishing every woman out there a happy International Women's Day. Well, as far as the query on Som Distilleries is concerned, the stock price has been clearly in a downtrend, and we have seen a consistent decline since its highs in July, what it formed. It has lost closer to, I would say, more than 40 odd percent. So it is not yet showing any signs of any kind of a rebound or any bullish indication as well. So I would suggest it's better to wait. Overall, the stock price is more into a bearish trend rather than considering even as a consolidation. Until and unless the stock price does not take off for 92 levels on a weekly closing basis, we can expect the stock price to remain under pressure.
All right, that's the call coming up on Som Distilleries, and we're also joined by a viewer. This is Rajesh from Noida. Rajesh, hi, good morning. Welcome to the show. You can ask your question.
Yeah, I like to purchase FedFin, Federal Finance.
Okay.
So it is traded at 128, showing good results. So is it a good time to buy for long term?
For long term. All right, Sharmila. Hi, I'll come to you. Your comment.
Yes. First off, of course, I think Happy Women's Day to all. And just to add a little flavor to that, as you all must be knowing, the International Women's Day always has a theme for every Women's Day. And this time the theme is Gift to Gain. And I think it's very important that we all read a little bit more about it and understand what it really means. That what when you are saying that if you give something, if you give a woman something, then you have far more to gain. As the sort of the tagline suggests, give to gain. Taking off from there, let's talk about the stock in question, which is I forgot it. Fed Bank Financial. So here, very honestly, the valuations look quite favorable. I would say wait to add because it looks to be a little weak in terms of the quarterly numbers. But overall, I think that definitely this is a stock that can be added at this level.
All right, stock that can be added. Rajesh, is there anything else that you want to ask?
Nothing else. Happy birthday to Sharmila.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for asking a question. But then, taking a leaf from what you also mentioned, Sharmila, I really want to ask this question. And maybe we also want to see Ankita on screen. Just to let our viewers also know that Buy Now, Sell Now is a women's team show, So it's not only the anchors who are women today with the guest also. And especially our director, Namrata, and Aditi, our producer, is also, it's a whole women team. But one question to all of you, and then we'll continue to our viewers as well. So, Sharmila and Forum, first to you. What would a 10-year-old Forum, when looking at the Now Forum, would think about?
Well, a 10-year-old Forum would be thinking about more of aspirations and today's day and generation. I would say in today's day and age, it would be more of, that empowerment or no, I want to do it by myself and be more have independence. Financial freedom is something when I was 10-year-old, that time maybe the awareness was not that much, but now there is so much of awareness and I think it's so much of importance when it comes to financial freedom. So for me, that is of more importance and even in every aspect of life that being independent, doing things by yourself is something I would go for.
Definitely. Sharmila, what will be your answer? What will a 10-year-old Sharmila look at the now Sharmila and think?
A 10-year-old Sharmila happened too long ago.
So what?
But very honestly, I think, just taking off from what Forum said, I really do honestly believe that the world belongs to women in every way. And what one can hope for is a more equitable world going ahead. We are not talking of equity. I'm talking of an equitable world. And where you do see it playing out in bits and pieces. But I think that when you are talking of the Indian context, it needs to sort of get into all streams of life. And yes, all the things that Forum said, whether it is financial independence, whether it is, autonomy in every way. but a more equitable world for everyone. That is honestly what I think that I would like to see.
Absolutely. Ankita, what's going to be your answer? 10-year-old Ankita.
Kavita, I think, a 10-year-old Ankita would be really surprised and very pleasantly surprised to see where she is now, because, when you're younger and you look up to all the, remember TV news anchors used to come, you used to look at them and used to say, wow, these women are great. Will I ever be able to get there, or am I good enough? But, really that's a lesson for all the women to not underestimate themselves, because I think we all have the potential to really go for the, to chase our dreams, and I don't think gender anymore is an impediment for that, Kavita.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key message. And one thing that is very common in all of your answers is that zeal to learn and just help other women get more empowered. I think that's a very big message, and even to the channel, that is what is the theme for International Women's Day as well. But let's take a quick break, and post that, let's shift gear to our viewer queries.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Buy Now, Sell Now. We're getting all your stock-specific questions answered. And now we have a live caller who's joining us. Khurshid Khan is joining us from Delhi. Hi, good morning, Khurshid. Tell us, what's your question?
Hi, good morning and happy Women's Day to you.
Thank you so much, Khurshid.
Others as well, yeah. So my question is regarding Eternal. I am holding 250 shares at the rate of 335. What I want to know is this counter fundamentally strong and worth holding for mid to long term? And if yes, then can I add more at current levels to average down? Thank you.
All right, Khurshid. Sharmila, let me come to you for long-term perspectives of Eternal. Now, he wants to know, he's bought it at 335. Can he hold it for a longer period of time, as in the longer term perspective for the company? Because we did see that stock touch 300 and then cool off from there. But now do you see it going back to those levels that he's bought it at? And what would be the long term perspective for this? And then we'll come to Forum also, if he can average in, into the stock. But first up, Sharmila, what's your take?
Yes, precisely. That's what I was thinking, that for averaging, you should take Forum's view. But I think, talking about the stock on a fundamental basis, it's very difficult to justify the kind of valuation that the stock gets at this point in time. Having said that, we should not forget that these are stocks which are sort of new age businesses, and there is a lot waiting to play out in companies like this. So a lot of it, I think, apart from their, obviously their whole Zomato food delivery, I think even their, the 10-minute delivery that they have, that is, I think, probably what I would see playing out for them in a positive manner in the coming years on a pan-India basis, because there are a lot of, when you look at the Indian diaspora and how it is located at this moment in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and the requirements there as they grow, and these companies are also slowly extending to all these towns and cities. So I think there is a long way to go for this stock, and you need to obviously keep your eye on their earnings and how their business changes, etc., going ahead. But very honestly, I think that it would make a lot of sense to stay invested in this stock. What level you should average? I think, as was suggested, you should take a call from the technical guest.
Right, Forum, quickly, is this the right time to enter? If he wants to average in, is this the right time to enter? What in your opinion should it be his strategy?
Well, firstly, that when we talk about Eternal, that last year it had a very good, fantastic run, that from those levels of 194, forming a high of 368, it's close to 80% that the return was there. Since October, we've seen the price decline. It's an entire, I would say, more of a corrective decline of nearly 78% technically of its entire previous move. So it is at a very crucial level. He can consider averaging it, and that additional quantity requires to be maintained with a stop loss below the levels of around 210. If those levels are triggered, then he has to exit at least this additional stocks that he's looking at averaging. So current levels are good enough, but with a stop loss that is advised.
All right, so that's a take on the counter from both our experts. But then welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now, and we're answering your stock-specific queries. Shabila Joshi and Forum Chera, guests on the show, are live with us. And let's move on. This question is from Vizag. Jaya is asking this question. And this is on Shobha. 100 shares at 1842. Long back she bought it. And now she wants to understand whether she should be averaging it or what should be the strategy. Shabila, I think she's sounding more like a long-term investor. Any view on Shobha?
Not just on Sobha, but a lot of names within the real estate space. And I think a company like Sobha, which is in largely a sort of south-based real estate company, there I think prospects are even better, because I think that you should be focused on tier 2, tier 3 kind of towns. Valuations also look reasonable, so I think it's a definite hold.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This one's coming from Nalini Subramaniam, who's writing from Chennai. She says she has 45 DCB bank shares that she's bought at a buying price of 147. What should she do? Should she buy more, sell, or can she switch? So 147 is a buying price. She's got some profits there. Forum, at this juncture, what do you see on the charts? Can she sell it, or do you see more upside?
Well, it's a good stock. It has been trending up very well. So according to me, she can consider holding on to the stock. The only thing is she can maintain a trailing stop loss below the levels of 165. And once she sees a little bit of more better prices of the price rebounding, that is towards the levels of 190 to 193, she can consider booking partial profits and hold on to the balance. So maybe she can look at 50% booking profits near 192 to 193 and look for a higher target price of closer to 215 to 220. So according to me, she should look at holding on to it and for now maintain a trailing stop loss.
All right, that's the take coming in on DCB Bank from Forum. But then let's quickly look at, okay, we've got some more questions coming in and a lot of women participating. But this question is from Madhava. Adani Power, he's bought 500, bought at 146. Let's just take a short-term view, Forum. What's going to be your take?
Well, according to me, he should just look at maintaining a stop loss below the levels of 127. The stock price remains into a sideward consolidation. And on the upper side of the range, even if the markets improve and we see a good upside momentum, it has some short-term resistance near 150 to 153. So at that point of time, he may have to consider squaring it off.
So that's the word coming in on Adani Power. Let's move on to the next question. This one's coming in from Sridhar, who's writing from Coimbatore. He says that he has Mascot Docs 500 shares that he's bought at a buying price of 2,521. When can he and what rate can he exit? Okay, Mascot Docs, interesting question. He's bought it at 2,521. So, I mean, he's bought it very recently, I believe. Really, Forum, what in your opinion should be his strategy? Because I think he's just bought it and I don't know, he's talking about exiting it.
Well, exactly. It would have been much better if he has to keep it for a long term. And in case if he's just bought it and he's looking at a very short term view, also the stock price had a decent good rally. Like yesterday, it moved up by nearly 8% and today is another around 7%. So according to me, there is some short term resistance even at current levels because it's coinciding with a 100-day moving average technically. But even if he considers holding for a while, or in case we see the defense stocks, the momentum to continue, there is a resistance near 2,740 to 2,780, where he should look at squaring it off. But ideally, I think it's a good stock to keep it for the long term.
Okay, so it's a good stock for the long term. That's the word coming from Forum. But Sharmila, what would be your fundamental long-term view on Mascot Docs? Because these counters have run up quite a bit. So in terms of valuations, is there comfort for the long term? Do you see more upside?
Yes, I do see comfort in holding on to it for the long term, for the simple reason that if you were to look at their order books, that's very, very healthy. I think the issue that actually the stock ran into was the fact that there was so much fancy for defense stocks that all of them ran up much ahead of their valuations, and then the reality sort of sunk in at some point when things were quiet on the geopolitical front. That you're not seeing the translation in profits so soon, etc. So those periods will happen. That you need to bear in mind. But the truth of the matter is that now you're in a state of flux and you will have geopolitical tensions happening far more often than what we would have seen maybe 10 years ago. And there is a focus from the Indian government to spend on defense. We keep hearing, I think just yesterday there was some talk that they're in talks for some submarine order. So I think the order book is what you should be looking at, and you should be a long-term investor, and definitely I think stay put.
Let's move on. There's a question from Krishnan from Trivandrum. And is SBI a good buy for accumulation at these levels? Currently, he's holding around 250 SBI shares. As alternative, he also wants to know if you would recommend Power Grid and Coal India or Dr. Reddy or Nestle. Okay, so let's get a take on all of these counters, and let's take a technical as well as fundamental view. Forum, starting with you, and let's start with SBI.
Okay, so now we've seen a very good rally in SBI overall. So it's been one of the outperformers, or I think it's even outperformed the Nifty overall. So it's a good stock to be in. Now, secondly, in case you are looking at invest or rather averaging or adding in more, probably this wouldn't be an appropriate level because the stock price is already into the momentum. Maybe in the past few trading sessions, we've just seen it correcting. But there is a very, very big gap, which is closer to a level of around 1,100 levels, which would be ideally a good support level. And that is a level that one should be looking at accumulating. For now, it just remains a purely a hold.
Shamila, what will be your take?
Well, I like SBI, and very honestly, I mean, I will always like SBI because it is from a sector that I like, a sector where I see growth, and your largest bank in terms of number of customers, etc. So yes, I think what's not to like about SBI. Now levels, of course, we can argue about. We've seen a good run up in the stock, etc. But having said that, this is a stock I think that you should form a part of your long-term portfolio.
All right, quickly, what would you suggest to buy Power Grid and Coal India or Dr. Reddy or Nestle? Forum, you first.
Well, to begin with, I think Power Grid is something that, as well as Coal India, where the money can be divided between the two and can be considered as an accumulate. As far as the levels are concerned for Power Grid, maybe one has to wait for lower levels of around 295 to 290, which would be a decent level, very close to a 200-day moving average. As far as Coal India is also concerned, the level, according to me, wait for a little bit of retracement towards 430 to 432, which would be a good level because it's into a consolidation phase, but into that momentum from an intermediate perspective. Thus, watch out for those lower levels to consider. And I like Dr. Reddy's also as a diversification in the sector. I would suggest, yes, Dr. Reddy's also, but again at lower levels. The price is trying to or attempting to make a breakout, but it is currently showing some signs of consolidation and taking a breather. Thus, I would suggest watch out for lower levels of around 1280 to 1275, which would be a good level from an investment perspective to buy.
Shamila, quick take, Power Grid, Coal India, Dr. Reddy or Nestle?
So first of all, I don't see the connection between the stocks because they're all from very different sectors. Out of the stocks that he has suggested, I'm only going to talk of Coal India and Nestle. Coal India, because it's if you're talking from a long-term investor point of view, the dividend yield here is very good. So that's a stock that can be looked at. And Nestle, because, I think we are not really seeing it get reflected yet, but I think FMCG stands to gain a lot from the GST changes. Almost 75% of Nestle's current basket will be positively impacted by GST changes. So we will see some improvement in earnings here. So Nestle. So, as I said, the two stocks, Nestle and Coal India is what I would look at.
All right, that was the last talk of the day, Sharmila and Forum. Thank you so much for taking the time out, joining us, answering all our questions. And once again, wishing both of you a very happy Women's Day.
Thank you. Wishing you as well.
All right, with that, it's time for a quick breather. Don't go anywhere. We're getting you more updates on the market on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You tuned into Buy Now, Sell Now. And on this Women's Day special, we caught up with Arundhati Bhattacharya to hear her journey from being the first woman to lead India's largest bank to navigating the tech world, surmounting barriers and inspiring women to ascend beyond the corporate glass ceiling. Let's listen in.
You made, one of the boldest career pivots in corporate India, moving from traditional banking into a big tech at an age, which is supposed to be quintessentially known as a retirement age. Was that decision driven more by curiosity, unfinished ambition, or what else was it about?
Well, to some extent, it's not unfinished ambition, but it's also the fact that I felt I still had enough energy to be able to undertake an executive job. I think, at this point of time, retirement at 60 is really something that is a little too early. People are leading lives that are healthier these days because there is so much of advance in medical science plus awareness. Both taken together, I think people are leading healthier lives and therefore they are far more energetic and capable of carrying on their duties longer than the mandated retirement age. So basically, I thought that I had the energy of doing things. Secondly, of course, getting a chance of doing something in technology, that too in a cutting edge technology company like Salesforce, that seemed to be too good opportunity to pass up. It is not that I didn't think a number of times before taking the role. I did because, after all, having chaired the largest bank in India, you are expected to be at a particular level and you don't really want to do something which may in any way reflect on that particular office. So I had to think about it a lot before I decided I'd go ahead with it. But I found the company to be very value driven, that they basically walked the talk, at least where their values were concerned. And the second thing was that they were very innovation centered. And that is something that always excites me. Plus the advantage of working with a much younger workforce. And as you can understand, working with the youngsters gives you a lot of energy. Not only a lot of energy, it gives you a lot of good ideas that also help you as you go along. It doesn't allow you to get dated, so to speak. So I think given all of that put together, I thought this would be a
Absolutely,
good
ma'am.
step.
Any particular idea that you got off late, or any particular conversation that was of interest to you off late with, with the youngsters that you mentioned who are working in your teams at Salesforce?
So, a lot of ideas actually, and I've discussed some of these on some of the forums. One idea was regarding this unconscious bias. One of the things that we keep rationalizing to ourselves is this leaking pipeline. And the fact that, so many people join, but they leave very soon after. And this filtration process goes on through the entire career of a woman, such that, even though there are some 40% people joining at the at the very first stage, the lowest stage. But when it comes to actually the C-suite, it's, it's in single digits, the percentage of women. And this, this leakage that happens, we rationalize it by saying all kinds of things like there are societal pressures, you are the primary caregiver, there are other things that you need to take care of, and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, unconscious bias also plays a very large part, because women often see that they are not given the right promotions, or they are not valued as much as their equally capable male colleagues. I'm not saying that the people that are getting promoted always are worse than them, but even if two of them are equally capable, normally the weight is towards the male rather than the female for the promotion. And that is something that can be really, really hurtful and difficult to sort of accept. And the net result of that is that women fall off the workforce. So I think, it's very important for us to look at these things. And this idea about unconscious bias, frankly speaking, I never thought that I had it being a woman executive, but Salesforce makes it mandatory for you to do unconscious bias course before they allow you to start interviewing. And that brought to me the fact that even I had unconscious bias. So, things like that, things like what do you mean by work-life balance? When we were young, there was never any talk about work-life balance. You had to work and you really had to work hard in order to prove yourself. And obviously, there was no question of any balance whatsoever. And therefore, life was extremely difficult. Today, youngsters are not wary about talking about it. I'm not saying that they don't work hard. They still work very, very hard. But the fact of the matter is they at least have it out in the open that this is one area where I need to do better, or where I need to be more organized, or where, I have to find ways so that my work also gets done and I get some time off and I get quality time with my family as well. Because ultimately it's because of the family that I'm working. So I think, youngsters are far more conscious about these things. Of course, they're also very conscious about diets and stuff. So they make us conscious as well.
Yes,
Okay.
but I'm going to bring you back to the tech boardroom and, the sort of gatekeeping that happens in, the tech boardroom. Is it a myth? And, what is your message to women who feel the tech boardroom is still a closed door for those without a STEM background?
No, I think, you have to basically in any boardroom, whether it is tech or otherwise, the main thing is whether you're adding value or not. And the addition of value doesn't necessarily have to be in a tech organization. It doesn't necessarily always have to be in tech. Because if you ask me, I can't, at the end of the day, I can't code in order to create an application. I can't. Okay, I haven't learned it. I did a course on Fortran programming way, way, way back. I don't remember anything of it. But the fact is, what is the value that I bring? If I am bringing value to the conversation, if I'm able to showcase what are the difficulties that a customer has, and thereafter, try and make sure that the company that I am a part of is looking at those and is going to fix those gaps, then, I can easily say that I'm adding value. Similarly, there are so many other practices that we had in the public sector, which I think adds value to whatever I'm doing over here in the private sector. Because in the private sector, much of the motivation is done by way of rewarding through money. But in the public sector, we do a lot of motivation through qualitative rewards. And that is where, there is a difference. And if you can match both of them, then you can have very good results.
All right, she leads the future. That's Arundhati Bhattacharya. You can watch the full conversation on our Women's Day special programming. But let's talk about Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13 awards that take center stage on the 6th of March 2026 here in Mumbai under the theme Agility, Ambition and Accent. The awards this year are shining the spotlight on enterprises that are adapting faster, thinking bigger and rising higher than ever before. Across 17 categories, India's finest MSMEs will be honoured. The winners have been meticulously chosen by a distinguished grand jury of eminent industry leaders following a rigorous agility a review in collaboration with EY. With a sharp focus on AI, climate and policy, Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13 awards will feature some of India's most respected industry voices, including Dr. Pavan Goenka, Naina Lal Kidwai, Pirooz Khambata, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, and many more. The evening will be graced by the Honourable Chief Guest, Dr. Shrikant Shinde, Member of the Parliament Lok Sabha. Let's take a look.
For many, the world only makes sense in straight lines. When it bends, they slow down. But for the heartbeat of India's economy, the entrepreneurs, the relentless builders, the bends are where opportunity begins. Where some see climate challenges, they see the blueprint for a sustainable future. Where many fear the disruption of AI, they see a new wave of scale. And where others find policy roadblocks, they find the agility to move ahead. Because success today isn't just about scale. It's about ambition and the ability to ascend again and again. This is leadership that doesn't wait for permission. It is relentless, it is precise, it is future ready. IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Awards Season 13 on ET Now. Presented by IDFC First Bank, always you first.
Well, don't miss the Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13 Awards, a powerful evening of meaningful conversations as we honor the MSMEs who are not just navigating change but shaping it as well. For more information, you can log on to www.leadersoftomorrow.co.in and mark your calendars for the 6th of March 2026 for the awards. With that, it's a goodbye on this edition of Buy Now Sell Now. I take a leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.